Oh man, blurry background portraits. They look beautiful, don't they? They just have that soft, creamy look that makes, it just is so gorgeous. Are you looking to try and do that in your portraits? This video is for you. I'm going to give you 3 steps that are super simple on how to do it. For beginners, advanced, maybe you pick up a couple of tips. And I'm going to give you a bonus 4th step on exposure to just add that extra to get them perfect. Let's get started. Why do we like this? Why do we do this? We do this because not every background is beautiful. Some backgrounds, like these windows here, are actually pretty hideous, but when you soften them up enough, it can make them quite pleasing and artistic. Okay, I'm going to actually do a demonstration of how I do this in just a second with my assistant Sky, but first I want to talk about the tools you're going to need, right? The main key element, the most important thing you're going to need is the longest focal length lens that will get the image you want, right? You also have to shoot at a very low f-stop, which means a more open iris in your lens. So I'm going to use this as an example. This is my 100mm lens. This is my favorite portrait lens. This is a Canon L lens. It is absolutely gorgeous. You don't need L lenses, just saying. This is an f2.8 lens. At 100mm, the bokeh is stunning, okay? However, it's kind of tight. If you want a close-up, it works. You also can use an 85mm lens, okay? An 85mm lens, this one happens to be f1.8. More open still, shallower depth of field. You get more coverage, but shallower focus. You have to think about this. We're going to talk about it in the demonstration. Also, the nifty 50, well, this isn't a nifty 50. This is the f1.450, right? With a 50mm focal length, you're going to get wider coverage. And this one also goes to f1.4, but because the focal length is 50mm, the depth of focus isn't quite as severe as the 85 and 100. Did I lose you on any of that? Rule of thumb, right? Long focal length, small f-stop, that gets you the bokeh. That's your starting point. That's your rule of thumb. Okay, now let's start looking at some of this. I'm going to show you approximately how I positioned myself with Sky when we're shooting these images, right? What you really want to look at is the distance between your subject and the background. The further the background from your subject, the softer the background is going to be, right? So frame your subject the way you want it and make that positioning as far away from the background as you can. As you see in the demo here, Sky is a good, I'd say 15 feet away from the windows, which is what I want blurry. Get your subject, yourself, and the background in a proper relationship to where you are close to the subject and the background is as far away as you can make it. All right, we've moved Sky into the next county over here. There she is. You can probably almost see her back there, but what I'm going to show you now is that the further the subject is away from the camera, the less the blur is going to be because the subject is closer to the background. The closer the subject is to the background and further from the camera, the less the blur is going to be, even if you don't change your f-stop. We're still at the same focal length and the same f-stop, yet that background isn't as blurry because the focus is further from the camera. Like I said earlier, you want the subject as close to the camera. When you move the subject away from the camera, you're going to get more sharp focus on everything in the frame. Not as pleasing. Okay, now we're going to repeat these exact steps with the 50mm lens. Why the 50mm lens? I want to show you what happens when we have a wider field of view, which means it's not going to be quite as soft in the background, right? However, if you get the subject really close to the lens, you still get the soft background, but you get more coverage. Again, these are artistic trade-offs. You have to choose what focal length works for the type of shot you're trying to do, right? One lens does not cover all. That's why you need more. But you can do a different effects, and it changes things. So we're going to have Sky in the initial shooting position close to the camera, where you can see that the background is fairly soft, not quite as soft as the 85. And then I'm going to back her up against the window and show that, wow, we've really gotten to the hideous point now. All of the ugliness is in focus. not sky. All of the ugly background is in focus, right? And that's not what we want. The reason we are wanting to soften the background in this particular location especially is because the background is not pretty. It's just a corner of my studio, right? So it's like, well, I want to shoot a portrait. I want to show how beautiful you really can make something, even if you have a location that's not great. Haven't we all had to shoot pictures in locations that weren't great? This is a tool in your toolbox that you will always be glad you can do. Okay, so let's summarize the 3 steps that you need for beautiful soft backgrounds. You need 1, a long enough focal length, 2, a small enough f-stop, and 3, proper distancing. Now, I'm going to give you the bonus 4th step for beautiful exposure that really adds that to make that image pop and look deliberate and professional and artistic. Okay, here we go. Let's look at this. So what I'm going to show first is I'm going to just do an image where I'm going to let the camera meter the exposure for sky against these windows, right? So what, and I'm going to do it, I'm going to go right up to her face and meter it. So you can do this a variety of different ways. However you meter your exposures, it really doesn't matter if the light on your subject and the light on your background are too far apart, right? You're going to see right now, it looks like this. The background is soft as heck, but it's all blown out. Now, if you're just looking at images on phones or small, you might love this. This might look wonderful. In fact, you've probably seen tens of thousands of photographs that look just like this because there's tens of thousands of photographers who never print their portraits. If you print something like this, you're going to see poofy white clouds in the back, and it just doesn't look good. It looks like a face swimming in white clouds. On a phone, though, I don't know what it is about electronics. They look okay. That's fine. If you're happy with that, you've got it. You don't have to go any further. But if you're not happy with that, I'm going to take you the next step further, right? We're going to balance the exposure on Sky's face with that background. There's lots of different ways to do this. My chosen way of doing it is adding flash. You could add a reflector, but you need enough light reflecting off of whatever source the light is onto the subject to make that possible. So if you don't have enough light reflecting that a reflector onto the subject's face will work, you're still not going to be able to fully balance it. So I'm going to show my procedure here on how I'm going to meter the flash, right? I'm going to set the exposure with my added flash and balance the background and the exposure on Sky's face. And I'm going to show you the difference this makes. So I've brought in my flash and I'm going to meter for the flash now to get a different exposure on Sky's face, but I am maintaining an f1.8 on the 85mm lens for a soft background. Again, Sky, nothing personal, it's just x-rays. All right, we have our exposure. Don't look so grim, Sky. That's okay. There we go. Nice. Good. That's it. Awesome. That's quite a difference, isn't it? It is for me. And I'm going to tell you, if you print a balanced image like that, it sings. It's artistic, and it just says professional. It says artistic. It says everything you want to say in an image, right? That's what this is all about. Increasing your skills, increasing your enjoyment, and becoming a better photographer. I strive to do this every day, and I hope everything I'm telling you is helping you do that very thing. If I am helping you do this, would you consider a like and a subscribe? Until the next video, cheers.